You're tuning into It's a Vibe. Music has always been the most potent medium that has transformed my state of being. When the maestro led the orchestra in harmonization, in a single note, a unity of sound overwhelmed me with awe. And a single beat or instrument alone cannot be as fascinating and stirring to listen to than the sum of its parts. We are all instruments, aren't we? Striving to stay in tune so that we can perform this eternal symphony that's the universe. So today with me, I have two of my friends, Mona and Max. Mona Asadi, she's a musician and educator working at the Segerstrom High School, teaching piano and choir. And Max Link, who is a performing musician and sound engineer. They're both based in Orange County, California. So I'm so happy to have you both here and have a discussion with both of you about music and the possibly the healing power of music as well.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'm incredibly happy to be here. Thank you. This is amazing.
I wanted to first ask, this question is for both of you. What first attracted you to writing music or playing music? What was like a first memory?
I think for me it was when I was really young. I must have been like maybe 5 or 4 or something. And I remember like sitting in my mom's Geo tracker in Hawaii. She put on Going to California by Led Zeppelin. And ever since then I was like immediately like I'm hooked. Like this is amazing. I don't know what this is. I was so young. I was just like, this is nice. I like this. And then I didn't I think that was like my gateway drug into like getting a guitar, getting a ukulele at the time and just playing with my friends. And then I think I didn't really take it that seriously until I got a little bit older, and then I was like, okay, I can do this for fun for a little bit and just try to learn, a bunch of different instruments and try to like, piece together sounds and layer them and like try to make a song. But yeah, it wasn't so very like much later, but that was my gateway to it for sure.
That's really cool.
I don't know. This one's hard because I feel like well, I lived with my grandparents kind of like off and on lived with us throughout my early childhood, and my grandfather was a singer, and that part of my family is from Trinidad, which is a very small like island nation in the Caribbean. He kind of like would sing songs, like he would make songs that were centered on like spiritual topics, and so we like as a family would sing those songs together. They're kind of like our family songs. Music had always been like a part of my life, although I wouldn't say I came from necessarily a musical family. He was kind of the only musician, and then I don't know, I just always like was really attracted to singing particularly.
Mhm.
But I really loved art. I was like always like an art kid in elementary school. And then I remember in sixth grade, I met this girl who I'm still friends with. Her name's Katie. And she was like an awesome singer and she was in choir. And she was like, you're coming to choir with me. So in seventh grade, I joined choir. She like dragged me from art and I joined choir. I just like absolutely fell in love with the act of singing in a group. Like that to me was a very powerful thing that provided me with a really wonderful community and like a sense of fun. When I think like middle school is kind of a time in your life where like your academics are getting a little bit more serious about it and like crazy things are happening at school and just like school might not be like the happiest or nicest place. Being in a choir really like provided me with a safe space and a place of community. And it made me feel things. Like I felt like it was an emotional outlet for me. And so I just kind of fell in love with it. And I continued into high school and I went to a performing arts centered high school. And I was like a voice major there, if you will. It was maybe eighth or ninth grade where I kind of was like, well, I never want to stop doing this, so how can I make sure I'm in a choir for the rest of my life? I
Yeah.
realized I wanted to be like a choir director, and
Mhm.
it just filled my spirit in a way that nothing else really did. I don't know.
That's beautiful. You guys both have different backgrounds and different cultures? And do you guys uh like write music in different languages or sing in different languages? It seems like you have different like influences, or no?
Yeah, yeah. I'm writing a full song in Spanish actually.
Oh, cool.
It's called Me Gusta Tu Cara. It's
Mhm.
I don't know, it's kind of like a bossa inspired type of song, but
Mm.
it'll be it'll be released soon. I have a whole another 5, 6 song,
Wow.
half an album coming out. So
Oh my gosh.
I I'm really like I'm trying to put everything into it because I don't speak that great of Spanish. Like it's pretty it's pretty it's not fluent yet, obviously, but I have to like it's funny because I have to translate it to English and then write it in Spanish and then make sure it actually makes sense. Because a
Mhm.
few of my Spanish friends are like, "Oh yeah, you sound like you're 60 years old. You sound very formal when you speak Spanish or when you try to write in it." And so
Yeah.
I had to like switch a few things around, but yeah, I really want to write in Spanish and maybe Portuguese because I think Portuguese is
Mm.
another beautiful, like complex language that,
Yeah.
they have words for like feelings, like the act of feeling something like saudade, which
Mhm.
is like I'm it's like a noun, like having saudade is like you're missing home, you're homesick.
Mhm.
I think it's saudade, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really beautiful. I want to write in those two languages for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely expanding like the languages you do know, it you have a better vocabulary of like the human experience. And so because like English can be so limiting, and I think that's really cool to like be that ambitious and learn all these different languages. Um, kind of like in what's her name that just came out with a new album with like 14 different languages,
Oh,
Rosalia.
Rosalia. Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, how does she know? How did she memorize all of those languages or those songs that she wrote? It's crazy.
Yeah, I love Portuguese. It's like probably my favorite language to listen to, like being spoken. I think it's so gorgeous, and I've always wanted to sing in Portuguese. I especially love bossa nova stuff, so I'm super excited to hear that song. But yeah, I guess like for me, being in choir, you sing in different languages, like for right from the get-go. So I've sang in like every pretty much not every language, but a lot of
Different
languages.
languages.
I sang like the main ones that you learn, especially in college. I studied like opera and vocal performance in college. So the main ones that you learn are Italian, German, and French.
Mhm.
So I've sang like a full recital full of those languages before. But outside of that, like I've sang in Spanish, I've sang in Japanese, I've sang in Thai, I've sang
Wow.
in um, like different indigenous languages, many different indigenous languages.
Wow.
I've seen in Afrikaans, like all these like different stuff. So it's really choir
Oh my
music is a
gosh.
really amazing way to like get exposure to a bunch of different cultures and not only sing in those like languages, but also like discover songs that come out of those cultures that hold meaning in some way, like folk songs um
Mhm.
or like songs of like liberation songs
Mhm.
or stuff like that. So yeah, I just feel like music is such an awesome way to not only like sing in different languages and get that experience, but also like learn about the breadth of like the human existence and how like music is a core aspect of every single culture.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's a lot of like
Exactly.
storytelling that's like a representation of the culture, but it's also kind of unifying in how every culture has music and song and
Yeah.
dance. I wanted to ask Mona, like, since you have this education in music from Chapman University, you don't necessarily have to study art in an academic sense to become an artist. And so I wonder how your experience at Chapman improved your craft Because even for me, it's like, oh, you can go on YouTube or you can like self-study graphic design and be a designer. I'm like, how did it improve your craft?
Oh yeah, like it was so much, so much. I think like going into college, I was definitely a choral singer. And then exiting college, I was a choral singer and a solo performer, classical performer. I had so much more experience under my belt in so many ways. And I think it depends on what you want to learn and how you want to study it. Particularly classical voice and learning how to do that. Like I honestly didn't even really like opera like going into college. I was just like, it's kind of just a part of this world, so I have to study it, you know. And I went in as like a music education major. But then my sophomore year I actually added a vocal performance major, which was mostly primarily like classical singing because I fell in love with it. I was like I just realized there's so much storytelling that can be done within classical like settings and just um being in college, you get that kind of very in-depth study that I would never have really done on my own. And I would have never really been able, honestly, to like get access to like great voice professors that are experts in the field and you get like one-on-one help. I learned all about not only about like how to sing, voice lessons and stuff like that, but also like vocal pedagogy, like the anatomy of the voice and how to use it as like an instrument, as like a mechanism, right? And how to like diagnose vocal faults and all that stuff. And so never ever ever would I have been able to have like an expertise in vocal pedagogy, which is kind of like my main thing now in high school, teaching high school choir. I really pride myself on trying to teach them proper vocal technique right from the get-go. And so I would have never had that background in vocal pedagogy if I didn't go to college for it. I would have never really fully understood the voice as a technical instrument if I hadn't studied it in college.
That's really neat because like
So that's so cool.
music theory is so hard to me.
Yeah,
And I'm
music
like,
theory. Don't even get me
how
started
would
on
you
that.
even go about that?
Yeah,
Um,
I
It's a
mean,
whole nother language.
it is. And it's like yeah, I didn't know anything about music theory before I went into college, so that's another layer of stuff you learn. Another thing that they teach you in music school that you would like maybe never imagine if you weren't a musician is I had to take 4 semesters of a class called aural skills, which is basically just like, well, it starts off really small, like listening to music and like listening to like a line, like a melody and like writing it down, like writing down what you hear. But then it advances to a point where like you're listening to whole symphonies and like breaking it down. Things that are just basically aural skills is like training your ear, skills of your ear, aural as in Aural. I never would have been able to like truly aurally analyze music if I hadn't gone to college. Truly, yeah.
it's a science.
It is.
Max, do you guys or have you had any mentors in your life that helped you through like writing music or becoming a musician?
No, I haven't had any like formal training or somebody in my life. I mean, I'd have friends with my buddy Pedro. We used to play drums, or he played drums. I played guitar. And I think we got shouted out on like a radio station like one time or something like that because I don't know, we posted something on Facebook and we tagged our favorite radio station. That was pretty cool at a young age to like hear somebody else, acknowledge you as a musician. But no, I never had anybody really. Like my mom sang, she would chant, she's a Baha'i as well, so she would chant, prayers, and she would speak in Farsi actually. But yeah, she would sing to me when I was a kid, and I think that was probably what really like soothed me and got me, I want to say, just attached to the idea of music and like what it can do, And then I just kind of got into it through just listening to music, That was more of my mentor, was just, amazing artists that like blew me away when I first heard them, like Radiohead. Radiohead was like a big one for me when I was like, I listened to OK Computer and In Rainbows, and I was like this is incredible. This is like next level stuff. Like I don't know what they're on, but they're on something. Same thing with like Jeff Buckley or a few like Nick Drake is another one that just blew me away when I first heard them. But yeah, I think music itself is kind of like my mentor. and just studying it, like without any like just YouTube tutorials and like how to do certain things on the guitar.
Some of the best musicians I know never went to school for it. Like, because honestly, like when music is your teacher, you learn things in a like your brain makes connections in a different way than if you were sitting in a classroom and someone was like telling you how music functions, right? It's like different learning
Yeah.
models. I had a learning model that was a mixture of the two, where like I was in a choir and I experienced what it meant to be a musician in that way, but then I also got that academic setting. But what you're doing is very much more like an exploratory model. And in many ways, like that's a lot
Yeah.
that like makes you have a way deeper understanding of music than I could ever have. So like I think there's a real beauty in learning music by ear.
I don't think so, Mona. I think you're very, very educated. I think you know terms way more than I do when it comes to like the technicality stuff. Because
Terms, whatever,
you
terms,
were you,
technicality, but like but you know how
you were
to take
saying
your
things where I was
time.
just like, oh my God, am I even a musician? Do I even
Um,
sing?
Look, my dad is a musician. He plays by ear. Yeah, I think both are like relevant ways, and you explore the same subject through different learning paths. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
I wanted to ask you, do you think like listening to different types of music growing up, Mel and Mona, did it shape the way you appreciated music or the way music sounded in your head when you were making it or when you're like perceiving music? Because I know like for me, there's so many different types of genres when I was a kid, like opened me up to like going even further, and some people just stop at one genre. So I've known people that just listen to one genre of music their entire life and they don't really like step out of it. And it's like I don't know if it's something as a kid when your brain is developing, like how you're exposed to certain things. But for me, I was just always like more open to learning more about different cultures in music. And
I think like for me, for sure. Like if you can almost liken it to like giving a little kid vegetables at a young age versus like and then they grow up and they have like a very wide palette versus like you feed them like two or three vegetables and then like you ask them to eat a Brussels sprout when they're 15 and they're like ugh, you know? So it's like
yeah.
it's like that. It's like exposure
Where's the
therapy.
pizza rolls?
Yeah, where's the pizza roll? Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think it's like that, you know. And also, not only did I listen to a lot of music from different cultures and stuff, and I think that very, like, definitely widened my music taste. And also, I have an older sister who Melody actually interviewed last week, which was
Yeah.
really cool. So if you're listening to this podcast or watching it, my older sister's name is Sophia. But so she definitely influenced my music taste. Like she would be like blasting music through the door. A lot of it like I would make fun of her for because she was like listening to like super super emo like goth music like scream out and I was like, "Oh my God." But other stuff which I think is fine now. I was just like, you know, a younger sister making fun of her. But like she also listened to
Love
like
it.
some stuff that I was really attracted to and I remember she gave me when I got a little older, I think I was maybe like 10 or 11, she gave me her old iPod Touch, and I had no idea how to like load more songs onto it. So I just like listened to her old music over and over and over. And I just like I felt like she really like helped kind of like solidify my music taste. And now like we love all the same artists, which I think is really cool. But kind of going back to your point too, I think not only was like exposure to different music very impactful from a young age, but also the morals and values by which I was raised, which was like I have my family and like my faith, the Baha'i faith, really kind of provided me, growing up in that religion really provided me with like outward facing worldview and like a very like culturally aware like upbringing, very like celebratory of different cultures. I think that mindset was really integral for the way I engaged with music as I got older. Because I remember, like, in middle school, I still remember us getting our first song that wasn't in English. Because you always learn to sing in English, like, as the first kind of language, because it's our, you know, native language. I still remember getting that first song and we sang it in Hebrew. And I still remember people being like, "We're singing in Hebrew?" Like, what does that mean? Or like how do we sing in a language that's not the like our own language? And I just remember being like, this is cool. Like I'm so about this, you know? So I don't know. I think it really does impact the way you engage with music.
Yeah, growing up, my parents listened to a lot of like new age or new world music, like Enya, John Tesh,
Yes.
Yanni, and also in high school, I think that was the time I experimented listening to music in different languages, in Japanese, in like everything, everything French. I think, yeah, I think it's beautiful. I've always been someone who's like fascinated and curious about a different eclectic sounds and different forms of expression through art. So naturally, I think I just am curious about language and different ways of expressing. I wish in college that I studied like Japanese art or African art. We did a little bit of that in like ancient art history, but it was mostly Western focused. I wish I had more hours to study different art around the world. Even now in popular culture or popular music, there are influences around the world that are used in the hit songs and like even in R&B or hip hop, like I can hear some Middle Eastern influences or in EDM music. It makes a more authentic and original sound versus like I know there's like a formula to like popular music that can get tiresome. And so when I hear something more experimental, I get excited.
Same, absolutely.
Mhm.
The
That
like
kind of
the different structures of how to write a song is
Yeah.
so interesting. Like the different ways. There's so many like Middle Eastern artists that do this. Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan is a really great example. He'll make like a 9 minute song, and the entire song is just like this beautiful like chant where it's like he just goes up and down with like this hook. He just hooks you for like a minute or two, and then it just comes into a completely different section, and you're like, this is like a whole new song, but it fits.
yeah.
It's like a perfect. It's a perfect transition stitch into the next fabric. I guess is a good metaphor for sing type of song that, but like it keeps your attention. It's not like progressive rock where it's kind of like after a while you're just kind of like, all right, this is this is like the same thing with a different drum beat. You know what I mean? Like I like stuff like that or like stuff that doesn't even have a chorus. It's just it's almost like like poetry put to music, and it's really alluring. Like you're like, oh, okay, I want to keep listening to the words. I want to keep listening to where this goes. That always excited me.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what you were saying, Melody, and it kind of brought up how you're talking about like experimental or like cross-cultural music. I kind of was thinking of like that new song. It's not new now, but that song by Ed Sheeran, Azizam,
Yeah.
how like he like in like obviously implemented like Persian cultural, words, but also like beats, like tones and kind of more Middle Eastern scales and stuff. And how I remember seeing a video like breaking it down. Not only did he implement those Persian like melodies, but it was so cool because he actually implemented like the backing, like the beat is actually kind of like Celtic compared to like yeah tambor and like the cultural beat from like that Middle Eastern area, and they were like exactly the same. They were like
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah.
And my mind was blown watching that TikTok. I was like, how is it that music from one complete different area of the world to another one has such similarities? It just kind of blew my mind. The fact that you can like find that connecting point and then like make such an awesome, cool song from it is just, I don't know. I think it's really awesome.
Yeah, that's really crazy, isn't it? Yeah, like kind of makes sense in a weird way too. I wanted to ask Max about his new EP because I feel like when I was listening to it, there was a lot of layers to it. Wanted to ask about your process.
I wanted to make a concept album, but I was like, like for me to do this, I'm gonna have to really like it'll take a long time because I'm very like I'll have an idea and then I'll just be like, okay, I want to expand on this idea, and then it'll be by the end of the song there's like 70 tracks, 80 tracks, and I'm like, okay, my computer can't even handle this workload. I'm working on a 10-year-old Mac. There's no way I'm gonna actually get like a full production out to make it sound like it came out of a studio, or like something, you know more professional than my setup here. I wanted to make a concept of like a collection of songs of like feeling, like I don't know, kind of like the dichotomy between a relationship and a home and a house. How it's really important to, I don't know, it's really important to have everything, not just happiness, but like, conflict and confusion and like all these different emotions that come with living with somebody, or like growing up in a broken home or a broken family, just like all the differences between, and like having those feelings and trying to like convey it in words, like an actual song. I was like, man, this is really interesting. Like I want to build an album. I had a bunch of like old ideas, like the last song on the album, Lullaby for Mom. That's I wrote that song like 4 years ago. I was like 22, actually more than 4 years now. I just never finished it because it was so personal. I didn't want to put anything like really personal like that out
Hmm.
into whatever, because anybody can listen to it at that point, even if I
Yeah.
don't market it. Like somebody will find it and then they will listen to it, and I'll just feel completely naked, like emotionally and
Yeah.
spiritually just naked. But I was like, you know what? I wanted to put it out because my mom would appreciate like sentiment of me being so vulnerable. Like the experience of putting something out like that is like, I don't know about for me. I'm sure Mona feels the same way actually, and you, Mel. Like music was like, it's kind of a friend. It's something that was like that you can understand very very clearly, like when you're listening to it. And I felt really heard when somebody wrote a song that was really personal. I related to it so incredibly well, even though it's like they're talking about something very personal to them, like I could just relate to it. That's what I love. I was like, okay, if I put this out, maybe somebody else that was like they had a kind of a funny relationship with their mom, they could probably relate to it and feel heard, or feel understood in a way.
That's a really cool concept for an album. I don't think I've ever heard an album that was based around like the dynamics of like your family of origins, like home. So I'm excited to
Thank
listen
you.
to it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. I really hope you do. It's also about relationships as well. Like it's the relationship, like living with somebody. Like I've never heard of anything like that either. So I would like almost like a conceptual thing with, I think the song Cannonball is kind of like a positive affirmation for myself. Hey man, don't be so sad all the time. Be a freaking be a beacon of happiness. Like be who you really want to be. Right? You don't have to be so down in the dumps. And so that song kind of made me happy when I was making it. So kind of like a self like pep talk for me.
I really like that song too. I thought the album sounded very well produced. I really appreciate the lyricism and also sonically. There was like different sound influences to it. Like it's singer-songwriter, but then it's also, would you say it's like R&B, or what would you describe yourself musically as?
I wanted to do like a combination of like indie and like R&B and a little bit of country.
Mm.
There's a lot of slide guitar on, like if you listen to a few of the songs, there's some slide guitar on there. And I just use like a glass bottle or like some glass to like kind of get that sound,
Mhm.
because I didn't even have a slider at the time. I wanted to combine different like genres that I like into, because I was always like really into like indie music, and I wanted to kind of expand on that, just make more of like a, I don't know,
Yeah.
making a genre bending type of experience to maybe, having a bunch of sounds that I like, and then hopefully somebody that listens to it can find a song that they like, or like a sound that they
Mhm.
really appreciate.
Yeah.
But thank you, Melody. That's really nice. That's really nice of you to say. I try. My music is a little embarrassing now when I listen to it, but I'm glad some people like it. So thank you. Thank you so much.
We're our own worst critics, aren't we?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know that.
Growing up, I listened to mostly indie music, so like I immediately gravitated towards it.
So did I. So
That's
Yeah.
awesome. What are you guys' favorite artists?
Right now I'm listening to OK Lo, which is a French indie artist.
like I just like good music.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter what genre. But
right.
I'm also super into like I'd say my top two genres are like R&B, neo soul, probably indie as well. Right now, honestly, for the last couple of years, I've been on my like, I don't know if you guys know Still Woozy. I've been
Yes.
Oh, I love Still Woozy.
He-
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
my
yeah.
go-to. Like if I don't know what to play, I play Still Woozy. There's this really small band called Infinity Song, who I just saw in concert. Really good band. Check it out.
There's this artist that I like. His name is Sega Bodega. He's kind of like experimental, like electronically. He recently came out with an album that's ambient. He collaborated with a lot of Arabic speaking artists and musicians, which I'm like really getting into now. So I'm getting back into like Middle Eastern music. Yeah, which is different for me because growing up, I loved English alternative rock.
Have you ladies ever listened to Dijon and McGee? Do you guys know
Yes.
who that? He was like making
Cool.
music since he was like maybe like 16 or something like that, and like
Mhm.
he was a big inspiration for me. It was like R&B, kind of like bedroom, I don't know,
Mm,
bedroom funk, pop, like all these like different
nice.
genre bending things that he did. Dijon's like R&B style is beautiful. Like I can't stop listening to that like vulnerability that he had in his voice, you know. His like
Mm.
is just he's just like screaming out, like belting out this his emotion, you know. And it's really hard to do for a lot of people to sing like that
Mhm.
because it's so it's like going up on stage naked, you know, and then trying to have a TED talk. You're like it's a really weird feeling. A lot of people don't understand until they actually do it. And Dijon just straight up just like he's just belting over the mic, just like completely like helpless sounding, which is like incredible, you know, to listen to.
I think performance is another aspect of it. It's also like theater, like musical theater. It's expressing that genuine emotion that you have and that like maybe it's like desperation or maybe it's love, maybe it's I don't know, any of the spectrum of emotions that we have as humans, and it's really amazing to see an artist like really feel the music that they wrote, having that abstract emotion, but it's through the music is also, I think, I can have that vulnerability even though it has no lyricism necessarily. Like the music itself, even though it's primarily instrumental, I feel that raw human emotion with it as well. So it's like interesting parallel between like using lyrics to relate to the audience or relay your message, but then also using the music as getting that emotional vulnerability as well.
Actually, I feel like this is like a fallacy. Like I can't even ask this question. But are you guys like more drawn towards like the music or more drawn to the lyrics generally? Like what does your ear perk up to like as the first thing? Maybe that's a better question. Like what do you pay attention to the most the first listen?
That's a great question.
I mean, for me, it is the music. I'm kind of getting back to music with lyrics.
Love
I
it.
think especially through my revival of like listening to more rock. And it's like it's very intense, I feel. You're using actual instruments and it's not heavily produced, like indie music as well. It's the storytelling, it's the lyrics. During my 20s, I listened to primarily computer-based music.
For me, I don't know. I think I mean obviously the music, right? Like you can't listen to some guy just like speaking Shakespeare over like somebody just hitting the triangle over and over again, you know what I mean? Or like doing some kind of like weird avant-garde experimental instrumentation. But it's so funny because you can with certain band, like there's this band called Black Midi. I don't know if you guys ever heard of them.
Um,
Black Midi is like it is incredible. Like the lyrics are so insane. He's like the sweet peals of moonlight induce lovemaking on the streets tonight, and he's like he has this like beautiful like poetry to him, throughout like the whole song, and like they do concept type songs, and the instrumentation is crazy. It's like punk, like jazz, fusion, like funk, like all this like crazy genre bending things like put together. So you can have like really chaotic music and beautiful lyrics, or the other way around, you know. But yeah, no, if a song has terrible lyrics, I'm checked out. I think.
yeah.
I think I think if they talk about like meaningless stuff, or if it's like if it's too indulgent or too like it's just kind of boring, you know. I kind of check out immediately. Like the lyrics do have to be good for sure, unless it's ambient, which you can make your own lyrics at that point. Listening to ambient.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think like of course like upon a first listen, you're listening to a lot of different things, including the soundscape. But for some reason, I think like just my personality, I've always in my life been like seeking meaning, and like I'm very attracted to like meaning and like storytelling and lyricism is so incredibly important to me because I think the story is told primary. I mean, when lyrics are involved, the story is told primarily through lyricism. So I don't know. For me, like of course you're hearing the soundscape, but also like yeah, I'm the same way. Like if the lyrics suck or if they're like really generic or like whatever, I'm just like I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I'm not about it, you
Yeah.
know. But I don't know if you guys know the artist Lizzie McAlpine.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
like a little bit Lizzie.
she's great and like the thing I love the most about her is her lyricism. Like if I can feel like I'm listening to poetry without listening to poetry
Yeah.
and like and it feels like that like vulnerability factor and that like rawness is there. I'm just like my heart feels like exploding out of its chest.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like I'm so tuned in. And then
Hmm.
the music is like obviously like the vehicle by which the story
Hmm.
is, you know, like and that like is super important too. But yeah, I'm just a big like lyrics person, I think.
Yeah. Writing, like I write poetry, and I'm mostly attracted to the symbolist, surrealist poets, and they're inspired by musicality and melody to write their poetry. So when you read it, it does sound musical. And so even when I was writing poetry, I always listened to music and as if I was writing a song to kind of meter or learn the rhythm of how my words were sounding, even though it's just poetry, it's not a song. It's interesting because kind of like writing novels, you can have different voices, and I appreciate both, where it sounds like a really good rhymed melody or poetry. And on the other hand, you can just sound like a text message or like very like something very conversational and it sounds really they both sound vulnerable or they both have beauty to each of them even though they're written different ways.
It's like the rhythm of reading it too. Like
Mhm.
like your cadence of reading poetry is everything too, you
Yeah.
know. It's like certain poets, Mel. I think you probably have picked up on this like very there's an example of this one poet named Mary Oliver,
Mhm.
and she like the way she writes her poetry is like every single word is perfectly fit in that line. And that even if you just read it monotone, or it's completely like you just like have no feeling in it at all, like that, like just like a robot. It's so like beautifully written to the point where like, even if you don't even have emotion in your voice, these words are still powerful. Like that's what I really love about that, and that's so cool. You like you write like novels then, huh? Like do you have any?
I write poetry and essays, but
An essay.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you were writing like novels or
No,
writing
no, I'm like
plays.
comparing it to like people who write
Oh,
novels in different voices.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a different beast to it
Yeah.
itself. Writing a book.
I love Mary Oliver, by the way, because I'm very
Yeah.
also inspired by the natural world. Yeah.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Just like every word is perfect, you know. It's like George Carlin. His stand up is very similar to that. Or like there's a country artist named Towns Van Zandt. It's like every word is just like bam, bam. It's like perfectly written to fit that feeling that he's trying to convey or that Mary is trying to convey. So
Mhm.
that's beautiful.
So thankful for this conversation because I have so many people to check out now. I'm like, okay, I'm like writing it down, like Miracle
Yeah,
on
write it
Mars,
down.
I know
Deshaun.
there
Like,
has to be like a notepad next to me. Just how
yeah,
many
literally,
artists?
I'm like, guys, like, I'll be texting you after this, being like, okay, every name you just said,
Yeah,
put it in the chat. Like,
Yeah, no, you guys have my number. You better. I love listening to new artists or like looking up new stuff. So yeah,
yeah,
text
for
me for sure.
sure.
for sure.
Max kind of like touched upon this with his album, but I wanted to ask if there was any like world experiences you guys had that informed you as a musician, like any like personal experiences that you like to share, or any world experiences that kind of like change your perspective on music.
I'm not sure about world experiences. There probably is. I can't think of one right now. But for me, personal experience, I've had many, like many moments where I felt something very deep. But for me, I think when you asked this question, my mind was starting to think about the role that music played at a very specific time in my life.
Yeah.
There's a time in my life when I was like a teenager.
Hmm.
And I was like really struggling, I think, spiritually to like feel sense of connection, like to something beyond me. I think for many years, I like maybe didn't connect in the ways I was raised to connect, like maybe through prayer or through other methods, right? During that time in my life, I do think like my spirit was still nurtured through music.
Hmm.
I remember there was a moment when I was singing in my choir in high school. I think I was a junior or a senior. They were singing this song called I Thank You God, which was based off of a poem. It was so beautiful. It was like one of the most beautiful songs I've ever sung in my life. And there's a moment when the piano is just kind of playing some pitches and it's very floaty and it's the song called for us to like pray basically out loud during the song. And I just remember like we were all praying and maybe for some people it was real, for some people it wasn't. But there was a moment where I was just like, wow, there's like 35 people right now, like all praying out loud over music. And then the music crashes and we all like come down from the prayer and it just lands on this beautiful chord. And I was like, this is my experience. Like, I remember at that exact moment, I was like, this is my experience of God.
Hmm.
Like, I may not have a relationship with him very well right now, but this is my experience of God. Like, this is something beyond me. I just think the personal experience of that for me has been that even when I wasn't explicitly religious or explicitly like feeling connected spiritually, music served a very spiritual like function for me and kind of kept that part of my heart soft. And when I like kind of returned to that like that real prayer and like that connection, that more explicit connection with God, like music had kind of always kept that door open for me.
Yeah, I relate to that because I do feel like there's a lot of divinity in music. There's a lot of analogies and metaphors surrounding music that have to do with the divine. Anything else you'd like to share, Max, about any life experiences surrounding music?
Yeah, it's something that comes from life. I think it comes from living life. I'll notice this with a lot of younger musicians that they don't really know what to talk about in their music because they like what do you know? You know, you're 22. Like there's nothing to talk about. You didn't live through anything.
Yeah.
And maybe your childhood at that point, but you don't have a unique perspective on it as you do, you know, as an adult, to kind of speak about it in a way that like really represents it in, you know, accurately and like on like a deeper level. So I think like anything like living life in general is like probably the backbone of really great music because it's just you know like you said Mel, it's like something very divine that happens when you write music. I think Bob Dylan said it best. Like there's an interview from Bob Dylan, and Bob Dylan like he didn't even know where his music came from. Did you guys see that? Or like where like the interviewer was like, "Hey, how do you?" He starts explaining the lyrics in one of his songs that he wrote when he was like early 20s,
Mhm.
and he was like, "How did you even write this?" And Bob starts reciting it, and he's just like, I have no idea." He was like, "It just kind of comes out of you. It comes out." He said it almost it was like kind of in the air that he just grabbed out and wrote as music, and then he explained how he could never tap into that ever again.
Mhm.
Like he was like after like 30 or 35 or something like that, he could never reach that again. So that was like a it's so interesting how like music, like certain ideas or certain melodies and words, they come randomly from the ether, like from God,
Yeah.
or I don't know where it comes from, but it's like that's what being creative means, I think, is like having that experience to take from, feeling like you have to capture it in a certain moment or else you can't, convey it the right way. But yeah, it was always a friend. Music was always a friend for me. It was an escape. I was feeling, really weird, and that helps me too. Is like, that like a feeling of loneliness and triumph
Hmm.
that I want to convey through life experiences.
I love that. An escape to feel, I think is like, especially when you start experiencing or making music very like young on the younger side, like maybe in your teen years or earlier, like I think that's a universal experience. Like music is an escape to feel. So
Yes, I definitely felt that as a teenager and definitely see that value in music today. I also wanted to discuss with you guys
Absolutely.
about the healing powers that music possesses. You kind of spoke on that with your experience growing up, but do you see that maybe in your students, Mona, or with your friends, Max?
I love my students so much, and I went into public, music education because I would never have become the person I am today if it weren't for awesome music, like public music educators that I had. It was very clear to me that I wanted to serve in that way when I grew up, to provide the same healing space that I had in middle school and high school, especially because I didn't grow up like being able to afford lessons. Like that was not my reality. It was really important to me that I could serve a population that where they too probably experience the same thing, where like if they're into music, they probably still can't afford it, and music education through the public school is probably the only way to provide that. And so now I serve in a school in Santa Ana, which that is definitely the population that I'm working with, and I got a lot of meaning out of that. Obviously, I think when you're in it, when you're that age, you love choir, like you're having a great time. You maybe don't have a full perspective of like how much it impacted you until you get older. I know that wasn't the case for me. Like I loved choir, but like I definitely got more of appreciation for it when I grew up. And so I'm just really hoping that I do see my students like I do see how it's a healing space. I do see how like they all come to my room like during lunch and that's their place that they hang out and like they feel safe. And it's so awesome for me to like see people so joyful and laughing in my class when and like talking, freely and just like their ideas come to them and they speak it out loud and it's very much a community. Whereas, I know in other settings, classroom settings in my same school, it's not like that, right? Even I feel the difference kind of between even teaching choir and piano. I teach 3 periods of choir and 2 periods of piano, and piano is different. Like it's a different vibe, and people don't want to talk. It's a lot more like to yourself, like solo instrument type of thing. And then you get to choir and it's like people open up. I do think that my students see choir as a safe space, and I think they see it as a healing space in a world that's incredibly and increasingly disconnected, and where we're still experiencing the effects of COVID and the social anxiety and social disconnection that caused, especially in young people. I think choir is a place where that's being healed.
Holding that creative space is, yeah, healing within itself.
And
Yeah.
the fact that it's also centered around community,
Mm.
which is the difference between like what I experience with my piano kids and my choir kids. Like piano is also serving a really beautiful function in their lives, and I think is teaching them maybe something different. I think it's teaching them focus, which is another thing that's lacking. I think it's teaching them discipline, which is another thing that's lacking. I think it's teaching them the beauty of like resilience and like and self-study and like that kind of stuff. But I do think like choir too is just a very special place because it's centering community at the same time.
Hmm.
It's incredibly important.
It's like personal
Community.
growth and growth through community.
Yes, exactly.
Mona said something really beautiful about like the community aspect. Like that's really important as a kid, because we like, especially kids that come from like broken homes, or they don't have the best parenting,
Mhm.
or like a family that they can feel open with and communicate with properly. Like having a whole network of different kids your age, and like under the wing of like a very professional but also down to earth, relax, like music teacher that's just like doesn't take himself too seriously or herself too seriously.
Yeah.
And I think having that as a kid is so important to any development, any like just growing as a human being other than just music, like learning about it, like feeling welcome to express your thoughts and express creativity is so important because the whole world, the reality that we live in is trying to kill creativity. They're trying to murder it with a spear from far away. They're trying to poke at you and say, no, 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 you got to go to this, you got to do this. This is how you get money. This is how you work for this green stuff that we print out daily and we give away to other countries anyway. You're gonna have to do this job, and it's not gonna be very creative, or it's not gonna feel, you're not gonna feel, they kind of take it away from, in the school that I grew up with. It was very like that. It was like, just you either do this or you're going to be homeless. That was their whole incentive of like, teaching you. We didn't really have a lot of money. There was no money in band. There was only band. And by the time I got to high school, they took away jazz band, so I couldn't even play the guitar really. So
Mhm.
I thought Mona said was really important. That feeling of community is like the best like healing experience for a kid, to learn about music and to to get their creative side, because we reward creativity all the time in society, and that's something that we should just continue to do, because
Mhm.
it's going to create so like opportunities for kids to express themselves and to change the world.
One thing that you learn very early on when you study music education that they kind of make you like think about is like if, your principal were to come to you or a parent were to come to you and be like, why is music education important? We're like running out of money, like defend your program. They make you do that like from the time you're a freshman in college. And
Horrible.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy. But one thing that I always bring up, and that's very important to me, and I always highlight when it's like back to school night, and I have a slide that's like, why is choir important or why is music important? It like teaches kids it teaches them voice. Like it gives them a voice.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And it makes them realize, particularly in ensembles like choir and band and like this kinds where you're playing or singing together, it teaches them like that their voice is incredibly important. Not only like teaching voice as an individual, but also like as in a collective space. Like when you're missing, I try to teach them like responsibility through responsibility and dedication and reliability through my ensembles as well. Because when, you're singing in a choir and someone or two people or three people don't show up, you're at a performance or something like that, suddenly your part is cut in half and the whole ensemble feels it. And you were relying on the person next to you to like help you with that one note, or like the person behind you is supposed to sing the melody while you're singing harmony, but sometimes suddenly they're not there and you're singing harmony and there's no melody and it sounds wrong. It's like, oh, like we realize every single person has a very important role to play in this. And everyone needs to be present and everyone needs to know that their voice matters. Like it matters for the whole. And so I think that teaches them something very, very unique because especially nowadays, like kids, I see more and more like this chronic absenteeism that's happening where like kids aren't coming to school. And this might just be like the area that I'm working in because they feel like no one's gonna notice if I'm not there. No one's gonna care. And then suddenly like they come to my class and I ask them the next day, like, why weren't you in class? Like we missed you. And that like
Mhm.
kind of changes their brain chemistry. You can almost see it on their face. They're like, "You noticed I wasn't in class?" I'm like, "Yeah. Everyone noticed.
Yeah.
We needed your voice. We didn't have you. Not
Mhm.
in like a
Mhm.
but like in a like a
Yeah, we need you.
yeah, you matter. You matter here. And so I think yeah, going just back to that like that space, that community space where they realize like they're important.
That's so empowering to hear, and especially at that young age, they need to know how much their voice matters and how each of their own unique ideas will contribute to creating a more beautiful existence for everyone in their community. I think that's such a beautiful message. And yes, I believe that art doesn't need to be monetized to be valued as well. So just having that expression in life. I loved hearing both of your perspectives and experiences on music. And this is probably one of my favorite conversations, how music can uplift and empower people. Like there's a rhythm to life, there's a beauty and vibrancy to life, and you can see that through art, any of the performing visual arts. And that's a key component of being human is to create and be a creative being and express yourself through any medium you like. So
I think it's a huge importance to have music in your life just to uplift you, just like you ever heard a happy song? You ever felt so like drained and beat down by the day, and then one of your favorite songs comes on shuffle or whatever when you're driving home, and it's like it has this like perfect mixture of nostalgia and happiness and just like uplifting joy that just brings so much energy to you.
Yeah.
Like just listening to like a triumphant song when you're having a really rough day is like, oh my gosh, that's a big impact on a lot of people, especially for me. So
Yeah.
I think people need that in their lives. They need that feeling because it's a universal language at the end of the day.
mhm.
Even a song in a different language can really impact someone's mood and experience just from listening to it. So
That's so true.
yeah, it's so important.
My song was Eminem, Not Afraid. That was like my hype song.
I'm not afraid.
Yeah. Any Eminem song.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Cleaning out my closet.
I want to thank you both for this conversation. I'm excited to see both of your journeys through music flourish throughout your life. I'm so lucky to have you guys both as friends. I wanted to give Max a shout out for his EP, Building a Home. And I'll have links to your EP as well on Spotify and any other streaming platforms that you have it on, your Instagram as well. Thank you both again. And I'm excited to have more of these uplifting conversations about art. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much for having us. This was a really lovely conversation. Thanks, guys.
It really was, Mel, and you did such an incredible job setting this up, with beautiful questions too. Very, very invigorating questions. So thank you again, Mel. This was incredible. And it's so lovely to meet you, Mona.
You as well. Yeah, I hope we can like all see each other all night. We
Insightful,
all live some
such an
close.
insightful person.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no,
Oh
we
yeah.
need to
Yeah.
chat for sure. It's always nice to have a fellow musician friend.
Thank you again, Mel. This was
Thank
amazing.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
After our conversation, Max and Mona both brought up a beautiful antidote on the concept of how we learn and create. Max said, music is discovered, not created. I think this to be true that not all things are formulaic. There is an innate and intuitive power that can take the lead and become that channel to release the message opportune for this moment. This made Mona share a quote from the Baha'i writings that says, "O God, make me a hollow reed, through which the pith of self hath been blown, so that I may become a clear channel through which thy love may flow to others." She reflects on how we are divine channels, and through music is one way the wisdom of something greater than us can come through.